Hi everyone. I'm really happy and thrilled to be here talking to you. Don't get me wrong, I always say that I'm really happy to be here. But this time I'm genuinely happy to be here in Warwick. Small anecdote, back when I was in prep school in France, like 5-6 years ago, I had this English teacher who was this old traditional British guy. And when you were a bit too chatty with your neighbor, he would always send you all the way back at the end of the class all alone. And he would say, "Stop it, now you go to Coventry." And now I get it. So I'm really happy to be here talking to you guys about business models for startups. Before I dive into that, I feel like I might just introduce myself and what I do. So my name is Younès. I work at a company that's called The Family. What we do is quite simple. We try to empower European entrepreneurs and to help them build successful startups. So what this means, what we do with the entrepreneurs is we take them on board at the earliest possible stage, and we try and bring them to infinity and beyond. And in some lucky cases, it works. But what we actually do with the entrepreneurs is we grow their ambition, we help them build killer products, awesome services, we increase the efficiency of their capital, we actually delay their need for funding, and we help them refine their business models. So we do not work with all types of entrepreneurs, we just work with startups, and there's a fundamental difference that you have to understand between being an entrepreneur and having a startup, which is my first point actually today. Because having a startup is actually defined by its business model. If you want to be an entrepreneur and have a bakery at the corner of the street, then you're an entrepreneur, but you're not in the process of having a startup. If you're starting a consulting firm, then you're an entrepreneur, but you're not in the process of having a startup. And the companies that we work with are startups. So the definition of a startup that we use, that is most used globally speaking, is the definition of Steve Blank. A startup is a temporary organization in search of a scalable, repeatable, and profitable business model. So the first thing that you see and understand is that the startup is actually defined by its business model. Temporary organization is important. It means that once you have reached and understand what your business model is, you stop being a startup and you start being something else. You start being a company that you will have to optimize, that will have a different kind of setup than the startup you used to play with or work with or you used to grow. A company that will have a different set of requirements, but for a moment, you are a startup and you're looking for a business model. You're looking for a business model that is scalable, repeatable, and profitable. What does that all mean? Well, let me take an example. Let me take the most over-debated example in the startup world. Not Google, not Facebook, but Uber. Uber has a business model that is scalable because it doesn't cost Uber more money to have additional customers on its platform or to have additional people driving cars. Uber is asset free. Basically, it means that they do not own or lease any cars. They just use the cars of the people driving. Makes them asset free. It means that they can grow as much as they want without expanding the cost of buying cars or leasing additional cars. So they are scalable. Scalability is about having increasing returns and decreasing variable costs with the amount of output that you have in your company. Repeatability is even more simple than to be scalable. It's just that if you can do it in one place, you can take the exact same model and repeat it in another place, which is basically what Uber did. The history of how Uber was created is that Travis Kalanick and his team, so the founder and CEO of Uber and the rest of his team were in Paris at a tech event, and they were looking for a cab. And trust me, as a Frenchman, getting a cab in Paris is a nightmare. It was raining that day. 2009, 2010 when they were at this event. And they just realized how cool it would be that if they could just press a button and get a cab instantly on their phone. Few years later, they started the company in San Francisco. They did a lot of stuff to refine their model and to optimize it. But at some point, it got up and rolling, and so they replicated it in New York City. They replicated it in a third city in the US, I don't remember, and the fourth city where they moved the model was actually Paris. So this is repeatability. You can take your model and just basically do the same everywhere else, and it works the same. Scale, repeatability, and the last thing is profitability. Now, a lot of you may know that Uber is not a profitable company. It's actually incurring a huge loss every year. You can count it, it's billions actually. Billions in losses every year. But Uber has a profitable business model. The reason why is that you should assess whether a business model is profitable or not on a units economic basis. Look at a city scale. San Francisco is the most optimized market for Uber because it was the first market where they were. And actually, the market for the cab industry in San Francisco grew threefold between the moment Uber launched and now. So it means that the whole cab industry in San Francisco before Uber is now 3 times the same size in terms of revenue of just Uber. And what they did is optimize the processes so much in that city that they're making profit in the city. But Uber as a company has a lot of legal fees because taxis in Paris aren't happy, but taxis anywhere in the world aren't happy about Uber, and they have a lot of legal fees. And they're also rolling out their expansion because they're about market conquest. They want to be everywhere in the world. For instance, they made huge losses in China before they finally accepted to leave China and to take a 20% equity stake in Didi Chuxing, which is the competitor there, which in my opinion is a great move because now they have an equity stake in the legacy player in China, and they don't have to spend so much money acquiring customers in that specific market that's so hard for them. On a city scale basis, they are profitable, and Uber could go profitable really simply if they just stopped expanding. They stop expanding, and in 1 or 2 years, they will make a profit. It means that their business model is profitable. It's different than having a profitable company at a larger scale. Okay, so now that I've defined what a startup is, you might be wondering what actually a business model is. Business model is something different than how you make money. How you make money is part of your business model, but what the business model encapsulates is way larger than that. A business model is about the way how you create, how you deliver, and how you capture value on your market. So you see, the way you make money and the way you bill your customers is just a tiny part in that. Business model is about creating value, is about delivering it to your customers, and it's about capturing it, so being able to seize the value that you create. There are 10 main elements of a business model. This is actually based on the work by Yves Pigneur and Alexander Osterwalder that some of you may be familiar with, the business model canvas. They usually have 9 elements. I add in a 10th one. I will tell you which. But the way it is usually presented is kind of shitty because it's like, yeah, customer relationship, that's important because, and it doesn't tell the actual lessons that entrepreneurs can learn from navigating through the business model canvas. So that's what we're going to do. And I hope I can pinpoint the different lessons that you can take out of the canvas in terms of searching your business model. The first element of the business model is really important, is your value proposition. It is what value you are offering to your customers, to your clients. And the very first lesson that I could give you about the value proposition is that try and be precise in what you're offering to your customers. Don't try to be too broad or too generic on what you're offering. You know, a lot of entrepreneurs come to me and they show me their web page, usually just a landing page, and it says, feel, experience, get better. Are you trying to sell me a healthy product? Are you trying to sell me a sports session? Are you trying to sell me, I don't know, a trip to Asia? I don't know. It could easily be the three of those. This is not precise. If I'm telling you, find a better way to book an appointment with your doctor, then you know what I'm doing. I'm offering you a way to easily and conveniently book an appointment with your doctor. So precision is really important, and you don't have to worry about whether people are going to be excluded of your value proposition, because that's actually what you want. Because the second element of your business model are the clients, the customers. Who are you talking to? Who's your target? How old are they? Where do they go to school? Where do they live? What kind of book do they read? You want to define your target as much as you can, because these are the people that will actually bring you the value. And these are the people that you're trying to communicate your value with. You don't want everyone to understand what you're doing. You want those people to understand what you're doing, and you want those people to be able to get the difference that you're offering to them. A typical example is that a good value proposition for a tool for software developers is something that anyone that's not a software developer won't understand. Because it just doesn't talk to you, but it doesn't matter. You're not a software programmer. The people who it has to matter for are the people who actually get it. So this is why the second element of your business model are the clients. You have to know who they are, and you have to be really precise in the way you target them. The third brick of the business model is simply the relationship between them, your distribution. What is the channel that you're going to use to go between your value proposition and your clients? How are you going to reach them, online or offline? Are you going to use a distributor? What kind of distributor? What kind of margin do you want that distributor to take? You have to deliver the value quite precisely. And if it's online, when it gets to picking your actual channel, the best trick or tip that I can give you is just test it. It's better through Facebook or through LinkedIn. You cannot know for sure until you've tried. So you try it and you track the different channels and you track the output and the metrics and the results, and then you know what to optimize. If you get, I don't know, like a 10-15% success rate on LinkedIn and just a 1% success rate on Facebook, then you might want to optimize LinkedIn and get more people on board through that channel, that particular channel. The fourth brick of the business model is your customer relationship. And that's something that's really important, that can make a total difference. We used to have a startup in our portfolio that was called Captain Train, that was taken over by Trainline past year. And the funny story is that selling train tickets in France was a state monopoly of the state train company. It's called the SNCF. And they were the only ones that were allowed to sell train tickets. And because it's a monopoly, their service is super shitty. I mean, the trains are late. People who you can complain to are always pissed off on the phone. They don't help you. You need 48 hours plus 2 lawyers to get an answer. It's crazy. So the guys of Captain Train, they said, okay, what we are going to do is we are going to sell train tickets, but we're going to have a level of service that's unmatched on that particular business. So they had to fight legal issues to be actually able to sell the train tickets. Once they got those legal issues dealt with, they started delivering on the customer relationship. And the whole reason why they were so successful and bought for £200 million last year is because they were so amazing with the customer service, and everyone was so happy once they tried Captain Train that they didn't want to go back to the previous company. So they just optimized around that brick of the business model. That is the way you deliver your service to customers. And a happy customer is a customer that comes back, that refers you to his friends, that will reuse your product, that will buy more frequently. So it's really important in your value proposition. The fifth brick of the business model are the partnerships. So your suppliers, people that you partner up with, people that you team up with, and that you actually need something from. What I was saying is like you want to assess them and you want to know what your bargaining power over them is. The more bargaining power, the more leverage you have over those people, the better off you are. Because you can know for sure that they will always deliver and always provide when you ask. And if you have bad partners or bad suppliers, this can be a really complicated thing in your business. Like if you're 90% reliable on Google, and Google decides to shut you down from one day to another, you're in deep shit. Actually, it happened to one of our companies recently. A company named Star of Service. Is basically you can have a quote made by a handyman, plumber, or whatever online really easily. And if you're happy with the quote, the guy comes and actually does the work. Their only supplier in terms of customer acquisition was Google. Their search engine optimization was super optimized for Google, but they were using kind of like bad tricks and tips that artificially inflated their results on the search engine, which Google doesn't like at all. And they, from one day to another, they just got shut off Google. So you would type in their name in Google and nothing would show up at all. So imagine like you have your regular amount of users and then you come to the office one morning and it's right there. Nobody's on your website. So your whole valuation goes down, your investors start crying. So what we did is we managed to get someone at Google to talk to them, and they promised they won't do it again, and everything's fine now. But knowing who your partners and who your suppliers are is super important. After that, there are three bricks that are the key resources, the key activities, and the key assets. The key resources are basically what you need to work. If you're Uber and you run out of drivers, then you're out of business. If you're, I don't know, you're selling diamonds and you don't have access to your supply of diamonds, then you're out of business. So these are the resources that you need to grow and to keep operating your business. Software development is the same. You need software developers to do software development. If you don't have software developers, you're out of business. So you want to watch carefully your resources. The next brick are the key activities, what you do on a daily basis, what you are good at, what is the actual work that you're doing every day, what is everyone in the team doing, the design team, the operations team, the development team. You want everyone to know what they're doing, and you want to define those key activities. And the next of the three bricks are the key assets. The key assets is what you rely on and is also the things that you build that will help value your company. Building a brand, for instance, is something that can be considered an asset. To take the example of Google, Google is a brand to the extent that when you say that you're searching something online, you're Googling it. So this is an incredible value that you have as a brand to be able to create assets. And assets can be intangible things, they can be tangible stuff that you actually create, they can be people in your team, that are irreplaceable because they bring so much value to the table. And there's an actual connection between your activities, your assets, and your resources. And they're connected in a way that you need to always know what's at the core of your company and what's not at the core of your company. For those of you that were here earlier, that's what I was mentioning. When entrepreneurs ask, okay, I do not have technical talent in my startup, is that a problem? We don't have a CTO, we don't have a founder with a technical background. There's no straight answer. It all depends. If tech and development are a resource that you need to operate your business model, then it is a problem because you need to have someone in your team that's able to deliver on those issues. If it's not, then you can just outsource it, or you can hire someone later on, because it's not core to your business model. So you should know whether your resources and activities are core to your model. And the very last two bricks of the business model, so brick 9 and 10, are the cost structure and the revenue streams. And you see that cost structure and revenue streams are the description or the definition of how you make money, but they come at the very end after you have actually defined your value, and you have gone through this super long process of discovering everything that you need to discover in your business model, which is why business models are found in the long term. Take the global picture and take the whole journey. The first thing you have to do is to discover what kind of value you want to offer to your customers. Then you have to communicate it to your customers. By the way, you have to know who they are. You have to make them happy. Once they are happy, you need to make sure that you can deliver, that you won't have any bottleneck anywhere. You need to buy assets that are needed for the strength of your company. Then you can think about how much that costs you, and then you get the pricing and your revenue stream. You see, the way how you make money, and if you go for a freemium model or a premium pricing or whatever, isn't actually that important, because it becomes obvious once you've navigated all those issues and once you've been through this journey of discovering what your business model is. Which is the reason why, when it comes to business model, be careful here. When it comes to business model, innovation is overrated. First of all, don't try to innovate on every brick of the business model. Yeah, so I'm going to have a different value proposition with different customers, different suppliers. I'm going to do different kinds of activities, and I'm not going to have the same revenue streams as my competitors. You're probably building something that no one will ever use. What you want to do is to innovate on one or two bricks. You see the Captain Train story is basically they just innovated on the customer relationship management because it was so bad in their competitors, and the rest was they had the same suppliers, they had better UX to sell the tickets, but the business model was kind of the same. They're just selling train tickets at the end of the day. So don't try and innovate too much. I have a few stories about that. Good artists copy, great artists steal. That's a quote by Pablo Picasso. It's something that you can find in a movie called The Pirates of Silicon Valley. I don't know if some of you have seen it. It's an old movie. It's from 1999. And it tells about the rivalry between Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. And Steve Jobs was fascinated by that quote. An actual story of the creation of Apple is that Steve Jobs once was invited in the office of Xerox, which at the time had created a computer with three main new features that were incredible. They had object-oriented programming. They had so the software developers here will know what I'm talking about, and the others just don't matter. They had an intranet, so the different computers could communicate with one another. That was brand new. Before that, it was just single program running on single computers with no interface in between them. And it was also the first computer with graphical user interface, meaning that they had a screen and a mouse. And this changed the way Steve Jobs saw the world, and he said, "This is the future." He got back to Apple, and he said, "Okay, we need to do the same." He got invited back at Xerox. He has so many questions about the product. Went back to his office, and they started working on the Macintosh. So he basically stole the whole idea from Xerox, and you now know the success that Apple has. Another company that's fascinating is Rocket Internet. How many of you have heard about Rocket Internet? Okay, so quite a lot of you. The company was started by 3 German brothers, the Samwer brothers, and I can't remember if it's the late 19s or the early 2000s. They went to the Silicon Valley, and they told everyone there, every big company there, that they were writing their master thesis about entrepreneurship, and they got invited to every company. They asked all of the questions that they wanted. They went back to Germany, and they wrote their thesis about how we are going to steal all of those ideas, which they actually did. They created a copycat of eBay that at the time was launching in the UK. It got so big in Germany that when eBay decided to enter Germany, they just bought, they took over that company created by the Samwer brothers, and they got 40 million euros out of it. So I'm guessing any one of you would be super happy with that, but not the Samwer brothers. They started thinking, okay, there's a business model behind this. What we're going to do is copy everything that works in the US, here in Europe, or in other markets where it's not present. And that's what they're doing, and that's the reason why Rocket Internet is working so well, is because they're just basically copying business models. So when it comes to defining your own business model, you can always rely on what already exists out there and use those actual models to help you refine in your research. And at some point it will become obvious where you have to innovate or where you need to improve the actual or the current model because it's not working. But it's always a research, and don't try to be too innovative when it comes to the model. You can be super innovative when it comes to the tech or the product, but when it comes to the model and the way you're creating, delivering, and capturing the value, try and be straightforward, try and be logical, and try and think in steps, because having a startup is all a matter of researching your business model. You're in a temporary state until you find your business model, scalable, repeatable, and profitable. And before that, you're just searching and refining. So I have a few cases that I can talk about. Netflix is interesting. Netflix started off in 1997 with a guy called Reed Hastings. At that time, the major player in the market was called Blockbuster. I don't know if there were some of those in the UK. There weren't any in France, but perhaps they were in the UK. At least they were super big in the US. And you remember when you were a kid, Friday night you would go to the video rental outlets and actually pick up a VHS. Well, that's what Blockbuster was doing. And Netflix at that time, they just started a company online, and they were actually sending DVDs to the people that requested it. So it was a process that took a few weeks, but it was just for the people that were too lazy to actually go to the video rental store and pick up their stuff there. And as they went forward, it started to become more obvious that for reasons of customer relationship management and for reasons of resources and costs, they could just stream the video online. Because if they stream the video online, well, internet connections were getting more powerful, so people had more broadband and it was getting viable to actually stream the video online. You could win a lot of costs in transportation and shipping if you didn't actually send the DVD. And you could negotiate in bulk in way better condition with their major partners, the video studios. We all know that Netflix is super successful now, and that Blockbuster has ran out of business a few years ago. I actually have other cases, but I'd much rather take your questions. So that will be it for me for the moment. If you have any question, I'm happy to answer.
In terms of something that's relatable to probably everyone in this room, what's it like for young entrepreneurs? How do VCs view them? How do investors view young entrepreneurs?
They see them as people who don't know what they're doing, and that's why they invest in them. When VC value a team, they have a very different understanding of what a good team is than what you might have. You might think that someone is valuable to a team because he has been to Harvard and then McKinsey. Not for the VCs. To a VC, there are two reasons to consider that a team is great: is experience and expertise. Experience is very simple. You have been an entrepreneur before. You have made things. You have learned a lot of things. You've made a lot of mistakes, but eventually those mistakes will teach you a lesson, and that's a lesson that will help you go way faster in your next entrepreneurial journey or your next venture than anyone else on the market. So that's experience. And if people like, I don't know, Max Levchin was a co-founder of PayPal, and he raised 40 million in his Series A round, just on the slide, because he's Max Levchin, and people know that he's used to building super big companies. Second thing is expertise. It's a bit different. It's actually about being able to create the best possible team around a specific topic or specific vertical that you're trying to tackle. So I was mentioning earlier that company that we have in portfolio that's doing fully comprehensive health checkups on demand. They're called Omixi. They actually have a scientific team of, I don't know, like 8-10 PhDs that are all the top experts in their field. So that's what you call expertise. Other than that, VCs don't value team. They know that the people are going to screw up and are going to make mistakes. What they like about young entrepreneurs is that they're fierce. They don't fear the risk. Fearless. And they're ready to make mistakes, to go fast, to learn quick. So that's something that they value. Now, in terms of what you search as a VC in an entrepreneur is what I was mentioning earlier. You seek for determination, resilience, ambition, patience, flexibility, creativity, a bit of naughtiness. I think that's what makes a good entrepreneur. It's not a question of young versus old. It's more a question of who you are as a person. Being an entrepreneur is mostly a question of character, I'd say. You either have it in you or not. If you have it in you, you know it. Like you want to do stuff. You want to create things. You want to build things. So it's more about knowing where you stand in that line, and being young or old doesn't actually make a difference. You know, like when he created Snapchat, Evan Spiegel was 22. Now he's 26 and he's freaking billionaire. So it doesn't actually matter to a VC. Yes?
Of the startups that you worked with and that didn't work.
Yep.
What were the reasons they actually didn't work? Like the main reasons.
Okay, there's a whole range of reasons. not the right market, not the right product, not the right team of founders, not the right timing. I mean, these are the main reasons, or it's rarely not the right amount of funding. It's rarely the case that the funding doesn't make it. It's more in terms of conjunctural reasons that make it doesn't work. It's complicated to draw lessons out of the failure of a startup. Most of the time, it's just that it wasn't meant to be, that there was no product market fit. That's what's important. That's the only reason why you will actually get somewhere with your startup, is you have to have a fit between your market and your product. And what you're in the process of doing when you research your business model and you refine it is finding your product market fit. So you can never know before, but you have to test it. And most of the time it's just that you don't get that product market fit. So it means that you're not going anywhere. It doesn't mean that you did the things bad. It might be that you didn't make too much of an effort to reach that point. But if you did everything right and it still didn't work, it just means that it wasn't meant to be as a model.
So I'd like to go on a bit of a tangent here.
Yeah.
For those people here who are interested in going down the VC route,
Yep.
Actually pursuing that as a career, is that something they should do in the end of their career after they've done their startups, or is there a place for like recent grads? Your own experience of how
Okay.
to get there.
The VC experience, VC route, it's really interesting. It's something that I discuss a lot with a lot of my friends, because most of my friends, unfortunately, are investment bankers. And they're all somehow interested in being VCs at some point. And the entry route, I agree, is not easy. What I would say is there are places for junior people in VC funds, but these are like analyst jobs where you won't get as much exposure to financing problematics as you would in later stage companies. And if you want to join, for instance, like a growth fund, or to actually eventually become a principal or partner at a VC firm, you need to have had first either some kind of financial experience for a long time or some kind of entrepreneurial experience. It's either of those. Eventually, being a principal or partner at a VC firm means that you can bring in a lot of deal flow. That's just it. That's the only reason. So you can bring in a lot of deal flow if you have money, or you can bring in a lot of deal flow if you have influence and if you know people in the area. I mean, this is just this is the way it is. So if that's what you want to do, then you should see your career in that way. Now, in my own personal experience, the family isn't either a fund or an accelerator. It's a bit of both. And actually, it's more the part accelerator that got me in there than the part VC, even though I did have private equity experience before. But I figure the best kind of exposure that you can get to the startup world and the things that will be valuable to a venture capital firm is being close to the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So this can be three things. It's either start your own startup. This can be in a place where you work with startups, meaning an accelerator, meaning an incubator, something like that. Or this can be an employee, an early employee in a startup. Because you don't take the risk, you still get paid, you get a lot of exposure, you learn a lot of things, and you're just being an employee, you get a bit of equity. If the startup is successful, then you're being successful as well, and you're getting rich as well. If it's not successful, then you can still take out a lot of lessons and a lot of experience from that, and leverage it for a VC company. So this would be my advice.
So right now there's a lot going on in artificial intelligence and machine learning.
Yep.
What trends would you say Younès are going to emerge in 5 years' time,
If I knew it, I wouldn't be here. No, I agree with you. I see a shift from mere software to some things that are more deep tech. I feel tremendous potential in artificial intelligence, in machine learning. I feel tremendous potential in virtual reality, especially in terms of entertainment, but also in healthcare or other industries that you wouldn't expect it to have applications. To me, the major dislocation of value chains will come from self-driving cars. It's a small game. According to you, what's the industry that's going to be disrupted the most by self-driving cars?
Trucking.
Nope.
No, it's the mobile phone industry.
Nope.
Insurance.
Might be, but nope. In my vision, at least, it will be real estate. Because imagine, you have self-driving cars, so you don't have any car anymore in the streets that's parked. So you win space actually inside the cities. And you can reuse all of the parking space and everything that's dedicated to parking cars to something else. Another thing is that those self-driving cars are way better at driving than us humans, so they can go faster, so you can live way more easily far from the heart of the city because you can reach your work in 20 minutes time, whereas you couldn't whereas you would take 1 hour and a half to do the same if you were to drive your own car, because they're optimized for that. It means that the rent and the real estate at the heart of cities will decrease and will move further away from cities. So real estate markets, in my opinion, will be totally dislocated by self-driving cars. That's a prediction. It's not something real. Can I help anyone else on any other? Yep.
Developing on that point, where do you see regulatory challenges fitting into your investment appraisal? For example, self-driving cars, that kind of vision for the future and quicker travel is dependent on regulators kind of increasing speed limits.
Yeah, it is. We have bullish investment thesis in the sense that when we like a project and we think it's going somewhere, we support it and we think that we'll be able to change the regulation. Because at the end of the day, regulation always adapts to what the reality is. If it needs actually to be regulated and if it's dangerous for everyone, then we bow down. And if it's not meant to stay the way it is, and if it should be changed, then we lobby and we put lawyers and we put every kind of pressure that we can, so that the law evolves with the society. That's our thesis. Drinks.